Welcome back to Chatooine, everyone. Star Wars Visions is finally released, and we're going to give you our thoughts on it today. And Lucasfilm Executive, he spoke on a non-Star Wars or non-canon Star Wars stories, basically the expanded universe, something we've all wanted. But other than that, we don't have much to talk about, so let's just get right into today's topics. All that and more here on Chatooine. All right, welcome back, everyone. We got a full panel today. Yet again, Lunga, Palpamemes, Goldman, and myself. We're all here. If you're new on Chatooine, please check us out on Spotify. We're also there for anyone who wants to listen to podcasts. We talk about news, topics, debate, and we simply chat about Star Wars. Leave a super chat if you want to get a guaranteed response. Not the best answers, but we always think they're the right answers. So, nothing of importance has really happened over the past week except for Star Wars Visions. And that's pretty much going to be our main topics of the day. I mean, there was 9 episodes. It was like 2.5 hours long. Did you guys watch it the day it came out, or did you wait a little bit?
Day of,
yep.
I've so far only watched half of it, and it was not the day of, which is unfortunate. Because
hard on Visions.
I know. So it came out on Wednesday, right? So my friend was supposed to come over, and we were going to watch it together on Friday.
Friends? You're a nerd like the rest of us. What do you mean it's friends stuff? You're supposed to watch TV. You're not supposed to hang out with friends.
That's under contract.
So he was gonna come over and watch it. Then we decided to go to the bars. Then we got dangerously drunk. I came back and I was like, ugh, didn't watch it. So I tried watching it Saturday, and then I watched it really late and I fell asleep. Not because it was bad, because I was really tired. And then I just haven't watched the rest. I watched, I think, 5 episodes. The first 5. Actually, I think 6. Yeah, I think 6. So, but yeah.
So you didn't see The Elder, the one with the old guy?
Oh, I did not. That one still looks good. I don't care about spoilers or anything. So
well, that's fair. But there's some that I feel like that you like almost had to watch, and then others that you skipped. My dumb ass, since I had to work at 8 a.m., I like got some early sleep, woke up at 3 to watch Visions. I think I got 3-4 episodes in, and I fell asleep, and I had to wake up and finish them. And so The Elder, I went back and rewatched. Really liked it, but for the most part, at least, maybe we can only talk about the 5 episodes that Goldman has watched in detail.
Talk about them all.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've seen the 9th one. Palpamemes Lunga, do you guys remember the 9th one? What that one's about?
The last one, that was my least favorite.
Yeah, I did not like it. I genuinely I disliked it. Actually, I did not like it. At
all. Mean, the story wasn't that bad, but for me, the animation was so bad that it just turned me off.
The sound design that really kind of threw me.
Odd, yeah.
Which one is the one with the rabbit? Like
that's the
rabbit Lope and Ocho.
Lope and Ocho.
Yeah.
Okay, because that one I have not watched. But the Elder is
that was actually decent.
Significant. Yeah, that one's kind of significant. I feel like it's like if someone was going to show what Star Wars Visions is, that may be one of them that they would show off. I can't remember. I mean, I remember a lot about it, but in terms of my favorite, it doesn't rank up there for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was really impressed with the series so far, at least for what Star Wars Visions is. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of unique. I don't think of it as something that's going to be studied by like Star Wars fans. You know how we break down Star Wars movies and whatnot, and like try to get into the meaning of it. I don't feel like we're gonna have that too much with Visions. I do think we have ground to like build a lot of stories here. But you think it's gonna get deeper than this?
Oh yeah. They're already doing a novel for Ronan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ronan is pretty good so far. I know that the what is it? Like the first they just released the first 5 chapters, and if you guys read that, it is literally the duel. It's the entire first episode of Star Wars Visions. So they are kind of sticking to the book in that sense, and I don't know how long the book is, but it continues that story too. So we know they're continuing or committing to those stories like that. But are there any specific ones that you guys saw in the 9 episodes that you would want to see the story continue? For me, it would be the 9th Jedi. That's the one that
Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And then The Bride. I don't see a lot of I know people like that. I really, really enjoyed The Bride.
So did I.
Which is, I didn't think I would, but I was like, I love the way they use nature and the Force, kind of connecting nature and the Force.
Well, they were like, I think they were the same. I think that the Majina and the Force were basically the same thing.
Right.
They just called it Majina there.
Which I'm not super into anime, but I do know like a lot of anime and stuff. It's very heavily influenced by nature.
Yeah.
I can't say for all of it because I'm not into it, but from what I do know, so it's really cool. My chair just broke. It's really cool to to see that kind of be combined with the Force, because the Force is a thing that surrounds all living aspects and stuff, just like nature is. So I really enjoyed that. Also, it's cool hearing seeing Rey's lightsaber kind of inspired by it. You get the same emitter, kind of shoot up animation. Then they
just because it was yellow does not mean it was real lightsaber.
They use the exact they use the exact same sound fonts, and I mean exact because I have the official sound fonts on my computer. They use the exact same sound fonts from it. I mean like. It's just
they could have specific sound fonts for each color. Hers was just the first one shown in live action.
In canon, that's not how it works. No, I
gotta find a link for everything, don't you, Palpa? He's gotta find a link.
It's all connected, dude. It's all
Come on, man. It's like poetry, it rhymes. But I did really enjoy. I enjoyed the story of that one. I'd like to see that continued and stuff. It was cool seeing that in the Clone Wars era too. That was interesting. But yeah, Ninth Jedi by far. It really. Of course, me and Goldman, I know for sure, want to see post-Episode 9 stories, but seeing this kind of the way this was done, I'm like, man, they could do some really interesting stuff. A hidden Jedi fortress, essentially, that's kind of hidden in the middle of nowhere, and they have to stay, and then they're trying to get these lightsabers. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff there that I was really intrigued by, and I guarantee they're going to continue that storyline.
Yeah.
They set up a lot, and I really like the main character, Kara, right? She was really
with
great.
The clear lightsaber.
Yeah, and that was also another thing. How because in canon it's like kyber crystals are connected to the Force users, blah blah blah. This took a kind of a step further, where if Goldman's got a red lightsaber, then I grab that red lightsaber. Oh, the kyber crystal's not coming to me. It's going to turn whatever, blue, purple, whatever. I really like that idea. I don't think they're ever going to do that in canon, but it would be interesting to see more of that.
It's kind of
people were complaining about that. Because they're like, the lightsabers don't do that. It's not how. Well, first of all, it's not canon.
Yeah, I know.
But also, if you think about it, the way her father explained it, he talked about it like he's kind of an innovator. Like he figured out a way for it to do that. If you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I designed it for it to do that. So he's not saying they didn't present it like this is how lightsabers work. He said this was my own addition as a lightsaber craftsman. I figured out how to do this.
Okay, now I never picked up on that. That's really cool. Okay, make that canon now. Come on.
That's a good way to run with it, I think, for anyone who has complaints on it. I don't see there being a reason to complain about like the lightsabers changing colors for people, because honestly, that's how they've always worked. The red has been the Sith who turn it red for the dark side, and then purple was for people who were kind of in between light and dark, and kind of gray Jedi-esque, if you will. Green was Jedi Consular, blue was Jedi Knight, like people who are aggressive and like the lightsaber fight. So we've always had like definitions and meanings for them. So I don't know why anyone would be upset. I mean, I thought people would be upset with her lightsaber being colorless, and also like she could change the length on it at any given moment. Like that's really
that's canon.
That's canon. There's
canon.
knobs on a lightsaber to change the length. You could change the length on with the lightsaber knob.
I believe it's in canon. This little switch right here is the length. I believe it's that little button right there.
You can adjust the length.
I had to get this out.
So weird. Every single movie, there's like a different, at least for that graphics one that Palpatine just showed, there's like a different button that they use to turn on the lightsaber.
That is true.
And I love it.
In the Force Awakens, Finn presses like that button that
the red
Palpatine just turned, and then in the originals, Luke presses the
side,
the rectangle.
I'll get it out.
Yeah,
the LED strip.
Yeah. It's actually, what's that from? Is it from a calculator, right? I'm a graphics nerd. I know.
It was,
yeah.
This is how much I love Star Wars fans. So they complain about the legitimacy of the kyber crystals and the accuracy, but in the episode of the twins, you got both of them walking around in space with no helmets or whatever.
Oh, dude, listen, I gotta tell you, the twins. I gotta say this before I forget it. The twins was going into it was the most anticipated episode I wanted to see more than all of them, right? And I did like it. But it stretched even my open-mindedness. Because I'm like, okay, these lightsabers acting like string spaghetti is not working to me. And I'm like, why are they out in space with no helmets? And then why does the droid at the end have a helmet?
That exact thing crossed my mind.
Yeah, that one was a little. I didn't like the. That's probably the one where I disliked the dialogue the most. They were so upfront. Like, I liked the animation. I thought the action was great in it, but the dialogue in that episode was just kind of odd. They like blatantly said exactly what was happening so forefront. It's like, I have a brain. I can.
That's
read,
anime.
I can see.
Yeah,
is that
that
really?
is
I was
anime.
like,
They read out the exposition through dialogue.
it's like we.
Ha ha ha! I am the villain, and I'm going to destroy you now by doing this. That's what anime does.
It's like, oh no, she's going for the kyber crystal, and then it's like, oh wait, I can use this kyber crystal. It's like you're showing him
That's
place the
anime.
kyber crystal.
Yeah.
Is it okay? I
That's
can't
anime.
complain then if it's how
Anime
it
is
is. But-
extremely easy to digest, and sometimes it can make things complicated. But for the most part, there's like a lot of tropes. I make a joke with Miss Only after we watched Attack on Titan. Like, there's always an anime, and there's always a character whenever like someone gets witty with them or like has like a just kind of snaps back at him or like a big revelation. They always like gasp for air and like have these wide eyes like oh.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh. And so they do that all the fucking time, and that happened in this series a little bit too. So the corniness isn't like something I dislike about this series. I thought it was expected. That one, yes, that one was pretty ridiculous. The twins aspect was a lot.
It was a
lot to
neat
digest.
idea, but it was just
I still think it was cool. If you look at it like, wow, this is absolutely insane. I love it.
You know what's a small detail I noticed is that I think in 3 of the episodes I watched, every time there's a woman Sith or Jedi, they're always wearing high heels. Like that was in the first.
I
one.
thought that was spectacular because anime does that. They don't care. Put the women in heels and they'll still be badass in the heels. But not only that, in the bride one, her heels like I don't know what they did, but they like went chink chink. Yeah, like dude, these are Jedi heels, bitches, so I can run faster. And it's like when chink and she like took off. I thought that was cool.
That was really cool.
The villain in the first episode, the duel, like she was straight up wearing stilettos. I twisted an ankle 100 times.
I know, man.
In the twins, she shot a laser out of her heel when she went to kick him. Watch it again. I'm telling you, she went to kick him. A laser came out of her. Oh yeah, a laser came out of her heel. Go watch it again.
I wonder what they were on when they were making that episode. They're like, you know what? Let's have this person shoot like 6 strings of just plasma, and then he's gonna take that plasma, wrap it around his saber, and
which is not how plasma works.
when
But
they'll
that's
be in
okay.
space. Yeah,
Yeah, and then like
That was good
their
stuff.
ships were conjoined and like shot a big laser, and he basically had a Last Jedi moment too at the very end where he flew upside down on the X-wing with his
Oh, yeah.
lightsaber and cut
That was
it
a
in
Holden
half.
maneuver, basically what he did.
Yeah.
It
Oh, the
was
whole- I
basically-
mean,
That put a smile on my face.
I was like, Goldman, I'm thinking of you, man. Thinking of you. Now, that was
I mean, did anyone
clearly
question how
obvious.
his body force or not survived going through hyperspace? I mean, that's this just like
Actually, if you do the math and if you do the arithmetics of,
Exactly.
look, man, we got spaghetti lightsabers in here. I
There
can't
you go.
question anything in that episode.
If you guys had to rate the series so far, like your overall thoughts on it, like is this a good approach for Lucasfilm going forward? Because I think I'm not gonna say knocked the ball of the park, but it seems like this has been received kind of well. I mean, we seem to like it, but it seems like a lot of people have also been somewhat negative towards it. I'm not sure if it's a vocal minority, but I've seen some hate and some pushback on this series so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring up my cousin, who's just the most I don't even want to say a casual Star Wars fan because he's such like a nitpicker hater about it. But we actually watched this, and I thought he was gonna hate it. I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. He freaking liked it, and I was like, what? I want to say he may have liked it more than me. Like he wants these books to come out about it, and he's like, man, this kind of brought me back into Star Wars. I'm kind of interested now. And so just from that, I know that doesn't count as everything, but like hearing that, I'm like, you know what? I think this is kind of a widespread thing that like people were like into this, and I think like half the episodes were great and half the episodes could have been a lot better. So I still think that's okay considering how different and wild this series was. And so I think if they continue on the path of giving just this full creativeness on non-canon stuff, which I know we'll talk about later, I'm okay with that depending on what it is, depending on what stories they're telling and stuff. But I think unanimously, I think most people are like, yeah, this is good. I mean, the main I saw this complaint on Twitter saying it has too many Japanese elements.
Oh, that Revan guy who...
Oh,
Yeah.
God forbid. God forbid,
It's
anime has too many
Has to.
Japanese references.
Well, he says it's just not Star Wars. I'm like, dude, do you know what Star Wars is based on inherently? The Jedi
Yeah.
or
was
what they're
Akira
influenced
Kurosawa.
by?
Who the fuck is that guy?
That's what the whole Ronin, the duel was. It was an homage
Yeah.
to Kurosawa. That's what that whole damn thing was.
It made me laugh. I'm like, this has to be a troll. I've seen this guy around, but he's got to be a troll.
I saw a funny tweet that's like, there's too many Japanese influences in Star Wars Visions, and then shows a picture of the Ahsoka versus Magistrate.
Yes.
Fight.
Yeah.
Oh, we love that. We love this. We love this. And it's like,
so cool, so bad.
Not even Ahsoka. You don't have to even go that far. Okay,
Just the design.
Obi-Wan and Vader's duel is those old Kurosawa slow duels.
How
That's
about
what it
George
was.
literally made the Jedi based off of?
Yeah.
From the very beginning. I don't know if it's worth getting into because it's such a silly complaint that's like.
And you know what Favreau said? Not about Visions, but it's a side comment where apparently when he wanted to make something feel like Star Wars, he didn't necessarily watch Star Wars and try to study that. He said he studied the influences of Star Wars and tried to mimic that. And Kurosawa, a bunch of Japanese influences. So, and just comments like that where it's like there's too much of this in it, and it makes me laugh.
It's hilarious. You cannot take it serious at all. You're like, wow, I don't even like it.
I'm surprised people haven't complained that there's too many women in it yet. Of the 5 episodes I've watched, 4 of them had women with lightsabers, I think.
I've
God
had some
forbid.
say that.
None of them were Mary Sue's. That's the thing. But when they were all well written, I mean, I'll be honest. I think that this series really did feel like Star Wars, comparative to. I don't want to say the Bad Batch, but like the Bad Batch, you know?
Oh, way better than a Bad Batch. Way better than a Bad Batch.
Like when it comes to
Bad Batch
feeling
is
like
just
I'm watching
boring.
a Star Wars story, like, do you guys not think this should have came out weekly, like every Saturday morning? Because this is what that felt like to me. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon series.
I think if the episodes were a little longer, then possibly, but some of the episosts are 15 minutes, and that includes the intro and the credits, so it's maybe like 12, 13 minutes.
Right.
But if they were each
why I
like
was fine with
20,
it.
22 minutes, I think I could have done it individually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, no, this is one of, for me, after Mandalorian, this is one of the best things I've seen in Star Wars. That's how much I enjoyed this show, all of them. I mean, the last one I couldn't really stand, and the Toby one, I wasn't.
It was cute, but it was
Toby one was
very.
It's very child. I mean, it was made for.
Yeah, but my daughter was watching with me too, and she's like, "A droid can't be a Jedi." I just couldn't reconcile that. How a droid is accessing the Force.
Well,
it's supposed to be around living things, and it's a machinery. It's not. I have a hard time with that one.
I always took it as like a big dream, right? Because he dreamed of himself as a big person. I always imagined.
Did you forget where he took his hand out and a lightsaber came to him?
No. Like all that was a dream, right? In his own head, because he's a droid.
When he was fighting the Sith dude, the Inquisitor.
That happened to him. It didn't actually happen. That's how I took it. It's like this is just a droid, so he's making up his own. Everything that happens is just through computer, so he can literally make up anything and convince himself that this is happening.
No,
right?
I think he fought the Inquisitor.
You think like to me that's how I took it. Is he like I don't know, because they showed him like if he was a real person and stuff, but in his mind. Then it got so to the point to where it's like, no, he in his mind, no, he's doing this right now. That's kind of how I took it, but that could be how I.
He talked to his master, who was a Force ghost.
All in his head. You guys crazy, all right?
How is he gonna imagine that? He's a fucking droid.
These AI, you know, they're getting smart out here, okay?
These motherfuckers.
But yeah, I love all the other episodes except those. I really enjoyed.
The Toby one. I was just like, that's basically the Pinocchio, right? You know, Pinocchio wants to be.
I was watching it within the first 5 minutes. I was like, oh, it's Pinocchio. I'm like, all right, big fucking whoop. He wants to be a real Jedi.
No, the one I really enjoyed, and I think a lot of people don't like this one. It's the Tatooine Rhapsody one. I don't know, just
that one was okay. That one was the kind of cute that I liked.
Yes,
Yeah.
the music in Star Wars. I don't know, just like I'm not talking about like John Williams music. I'm like talking about singers in Star Wars. You know, we get the Cantina Band, and we get the what's the one Jedi Rocks, the awful one in Return of the Jedi. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was cute. I don't have many like in-depth thoughts on all of these because they were so quick. I don't know. That one I enjoyed. I thought it was funny when they were like, it felt like a family, and then there's the weird monster that was like 3 bodies. I thought that was pretty creative. That's what I like about Visions, that it was like even an episode like the Twins, which is way over the top. I don't care. I want to see stuff like that.
Yeah, it was still fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked about this. Now it's not as when it comes to non-canon stories, it's not as good as the Lego specials, but it was still pretty good.
Oh my god!
But to me, to me, and I'll ask you guys
Goldman.
this: if you have to pick one character out of all the episodes that you found the most intriguing, I know Goldman only has half the repository, but one character out of the one the most intriguing for me. Did they ever name her? The Jedi in The Bride? They didn't name her, did they?
Yeah, they did. Because
If they did, I don't know.
They did. I'm pretty sure they did because it's like it gets brought up whenever it's her and the dude who's got the weird helmet on.
She was, with the guy from The Duel being my second but she was my favorite character out of every single episode in this show and every character in it. I loved her character. I love the fact that they pretty much set up to where she's like post Order 66. She's one of the Padawans that survived, and then she cuts off the braid. Mm-hmm. And she's like ready to go, and she took the mask off, and she has a scar. Everything about her and the animation style, it hit all the Star Wars feels that I have, and it hit all the anime shows that I love watching. The animation style and everything hit that, so it just was like the perfect combination for me of all of it.
Well, it also had it was also a good story in general, like the way it ended. Like it was very satisfying.
For me, I think this is gonna be a hot take. I like the story of the first one. Like I would love to see more of the characters, but I cannot stand that animation. It was like the black and white, and it was like
really?
I don't know how to describe it.
The lack of color, then the saturation.
I shouldn't say it was the lack of color. I just like the graininess of it.
You have weird animations on the characters, so like when they move, their textures stay in place.
Yeah,
in a way, like there's a big texture, and then it moves. It doesn't
almost
move with it. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah,
it's a style. It was kind of like Afro Samurai had a similar style.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I enjoy, because you said the book Ronin is about the first one. And then, like you said, the chapters that were released are basically the duel. So hopefully,
because that's his name. His name is Ronin. So like in the book, he people refer to him as Ronin or the Ronin, and then there's
Master Ronin,
something like that. And then there's someone who teams up with him. They just call him the Traveler. And like the big twist with the book is that there's like a voice inside his head, and the girl that. Spoiler alert for anyone who wants to read the book, even though it's in the first 5 chapters they released. The girl he killed. She like wakes up, like she survives, the Umbrella Lady, so she's going to be a significant part. And his entire mission is basically to hunt down Sith and kill them. That's all he does.
And he was one.
Yes, and he was a former Sith. That's what makes it really cool.
Really
and his name is a bit of a double entendre because his name is Ronin, but he's a Ronin.
That'd be a really interesting story. Like, I'd be okay with a movie. Like, not about, it doesn't have to be set in that, but like, it'd be cool to see, because we've seen Jedi turn bad, right? But what if we have like a dude who's born into the Sith world, and then he's like, no, I need to stop this. And he just goes on because he's Sith, so he's got very bad ideologies still, but he's like, no, I'm going to go against the Sith. So he just goes on a murderous rampage against the Sith. It'd be interesting.
Well, to be fair, Darth Maul kind of did the same thing. He wanted to.
Yeah, I guess so.
He wanted to
there just wasn't any Siths other than
he just want to
Palpatine.
make his own sort of.
He wanted to make him and Savage like the Sith.
Yeah.
And then he just wanted to revenge on Palpatine. So
I meant like he hates the Sith, and he's like kind of like this, and he's like, no, I was a Sith, and it was awful. So now I'm gonna kill them all. Like, has no remorse. It's just like
that's where we have to appreciate Visions, is because they did something Lucasfilm hasn't done, and that's expand the Sith in significant ways. I mean, wasn't it almost every single episode in the series, excluding like something small like the Tatooine Raspberry one? Didn't all of them include the Sith in some way, in like a very significant way too? Like it was very well
Sith
done.
The Jedi.
Well, did
the only one
Bride episode?
Tatooine Rhapsody had
Lop and Ocho didn't. It was Empire. But Lop and Ocho didn't have Sith. But a majority of them did. Out of them, I think about at least six or seven of them involved the Sith.
I really love seeing the it's so short, the Sith cultists on the Twins episode. That was really cool. I got the mummy faces and stuff, and I had to go back and look at Rise of Skywalker and do a exposure and everything on a screenshot. And the cultists they have the ones that are actually doing the scientific experiments. They actually have those mummy face coverings and stuff. So that's a really cool little detail there that they created.
And that's the fun I had with this was when I was watching it, even though it's not canon, trying to figure out where in the timeline it sits, like every time we saw Stormtroopers, it was pretty simple. We figured out it was, Empire time period. The Ninth Jedi, to be honest with you, feels like to me like even before the High Republic, because we had all those Sith. It's like it's during the Sith War, so we're talking thousands of years ago. That's what the Ninth Jedi feels like to me.
Yeah, but it is confirmed to be 100 years after Rise.
The Ninth Jedi? They confirmed that? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they posted it somewhere. It might be on the Star Wars Let's see, 9.
Where would all these Sith come from?
That girl, Kara, she's gonna try and rebuild the Jedi, and then she's gonna find Rey on an island alone, and she's gonna be like, yeah.
100 years later,
no.
Rey's 120 years old.
Hey, maybe maybe she finds the One Ring and can live forever. I don't know.
She's the one who discovers the secret to immortality of living forever through the Force and all that.
Exactly.
Shit.
Yeah, it's called Force Ghost. That's how you live forever in the Force.
Well, you don't understand, Lunga. She's better than Yoda, so she can do more than he can.
Oh, that's right. That's right. All that extensive training she had. I forgot. I'm sorry.
I know, Goldman, you haven't seen The Elder. You should. That is one that
I'm gonna watch them. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, that one to me has like one of the best anime styles. Like it's something that I kind of wanted to see continue. One of my friends was telling me he actually thought the episode should have been about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and like instead of the two characters that we had. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I could see the correlation that he made. But I really liked the Master in that one, the one who ended up fighting the Elder. But I mean I kind of wanted more from it. I really thought the old guy was going to do some more scary shit, and he was weird. He was definitely weird. But I don't know. I thought they could explore that little story a little bit more, because I was really intrigued with how the galaxy was set up during that episode, and I'm just curious on what timeline it took place in and relevance to what we know as the Star Wars timeline.
I just wish the First Order had a Star Destroyer like the one in the Twins. That
Not just one, it's two.
Actually, no, that's an awful design, but
it looked kind of odd. I was like,
I feel like I've seen worse.
Yeah. Have you guys seen those? What was that? Isn't it like a TIE fighter X-wing mishmash? There's some mashup of two completely different ships. I think it's an X-wing TIE fighter one. It's somewhere in Legends. I can't remember. It might be X-wing TIE fighter, but it might be something else.
Which one?
It's just a mashup of two starfighters like put into one. I think it's an X-wing mixed with like a TIE fighter.
That was another thing about the Twins episode. That like why does he randomly have an X-wing? My ship's right here. He has an X-wing on these.
I know. I was like, wait, isn't this guy been working for them this whole time?
No one saw that as a red flag when he brought that in. They're like, hey, isn't that part of the enemy?
I wonder if his little
droid
droid brought it in or something. I don't know. We can make up headcanon or something.
Well, what was your guys' favorite episode of the series, and why was it The Ninth Jedi?
4. I enjoyed 4 a lot. I love both, and I think story-wise, Ninth Jedi by far is the best. But I don't know, there's something about everything worked for me with episode 4. The animation, the music was really cool.
Which one's 4? Is that
the
Bride?
The Bride.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I really like that story. I mean, it's kind of a simple story, you know. We've kind of seen it where it's like, oh yeah, things getting taken over. Oh, here's a Jedi. But I don't know. It really worked for me. The way it was set up, the characters and stuff. I'm really intrigued by those two main characters, even though I don't know their name. And I don't know. It's probably the most rewatchable for me. But Ninth Jedi, I think, has the strongest story, and I really hope they expand upon that in some way.
What
the ones I've
Lunga?
seen?
Oh shit! Go ahead, go.
I mean, it's almost a tie. I mean, for me, Ninth Jedi, The Village Bride, and The Duel. Those 3 are like top of the list for me. Now, if you put a lightsaber to my head and have to pick one, that's hard. I'd want to say The Village Bride, but I would lean toward Ninth Jedi only because it feels like it has way more longevity for more stuff.
Yeah, but I get that. That's why I think story-wise it's better. But if we're looking at episode from episode, what's in this? I think Bride for me takes it.
For me, when I was watching them, like the Bride one surprised me a lot. Just because going into it, I really saw parts of it in the trailer, and I was like, oh, it just looks cute, but it was great in terms of story and had a really good climax at the end and kind of small twist. It's just a very satisfying overall narrative. But for me, The Ninth Jedi, that one kind of reminded me of the first episode of Invincible. If you guys have seen that, at the very end, there's the big reveal, and it's kind of in a similar situation. And so I thought that was not only surprising, it was kind of like a shocker, and also it delivered in epic proportions. Like seeing this one Jedi take on all these Sith, and he kills a lot of them, and they're not like Sith masters or anything. I think they said they're acolytes and servants of the Sith, but still, like that, it almost seemed like he was the bad guy throughout the entire episode, and then turns out he's the good guy. And the design that they had for the lightsabers, the way it changed colors, for me, that is the one that like I think is the most epic and something I'd really want to see the series continue with. What about you?
Not to
Logan? What's
mention
your
the
favorite one so
Sith were
far?
all wearing like Jedi robes, and he came out with his mask looking like he was a Sith.
I like that twist.
You know, for me, I'd say the Ninth Jedi. For me, felt the most Star Wars. I mean, I can kind of see like the hero's journey in that story. You know, Kara is like the main protagonist, and then I forgot the name of the Jedi Master that they were looking for that was in the droid the whole time. Or
The
whatever.
Magistrate.
That was his name.
The Magistrate, yeah.
Oh. I don't know. It just felt the most Star Wars to me. I liked the animation. I was surprised when they all grabbed the light. I liked the idea of when they grab the lightsabers, it like changes color for whoever it is. I know that's not a canon thing, but I don't care. And then when all of the other Jedi took out the lightsabers and it was red because they were really Sith acolytes, that was a neat twist for me. I don't know. It just, and I think the continuation of it is also a big thing. Because if they do make, I feel like if they're making this Ronin book, they're going to be open to continuing the other stories. And I don't know, with the Ronin book, I don't know where the hell to put it in my library. Because my library, I have it in chronological order. So where the hell does it go?
Another shelf, non-canon.
I'll put it with Legends then.
There you go.
But it's the Ronin. The fact that they're making a book like from Visions, because the book's by default non-canon. So it's the fact that they're making non-canon like books, they're putting effort into telling whole non-canon books, makes me think of the potential that they're going to do in the future. Are they going to actually continue the Legends timeline? I feel like that's a bigger possibility now than it's ever been since Disney bought Star Wars. I think Visions really has opened doors to a lot of new things to come with this franchise, and I'm excited.
Well, Golden, I'm glad you
my
said
issue.
that. Go ahead.
So,
Rondo,
sorry,
what do you got?
my issue with that. I don't like expanding too much non-canon stuff because it starts to diminish. Then why do we have canon? Let's just not have canon. Yeah. It's silly. That's the problem I have with it. Because if you have too much non-canon stuff, and let's say this stuff is really good, and now then what are we not caring about canon anymore? Everyone's caring about this new stuff that's non-canon. It starts, I think, to muddy the waters a little too much. It also hurts the fact that we have legends that are non-canon, that they're going to cherry pick stuff to make canon, but then they're going to be making non-canon stuff here that we like. It seems like a mess.
It's like, what's the point then? Why would you make that non-canon if you're just going to... Yeah.
Right. If you're going to plan, like, if let's say they made this here and this was all it was, one-off, just these episodes, that's it, I'm okay with that being non-canon. But if you're going to make something that's continuing, or you're going to make a bigger story out of it, it's silly for me to make it non-canon.
So do you want them to continue non-canon stuff? Like, do you want a Visions season 2 to continue this kind of narrative?
I would love to see it, but if you're going to do that, make it canon.
No, I disagree. I don't think they should make it canon. I feel like there's almost something sacred about having something canon. I mean, we've had that for Star Wars since Splinter's Eye, and I think that came out 76? No, not 76, 78. After 77. But I mean, in general, having like the Star Wars canon that we follow, that stuff like, hey, this is the actual narrative, this is the actual story, this is the actual meaning of Star Wars. When we have non-canon stuff like Splinter of the Mind's Eye and just the expanded universe and all that stuff, like those can still be significant stories that we can enjoy, but we can also understand that like they're not tied into canon, and that just in the end it doesn't really matter. Like you're saying, like canon or non-canon, it doesn't really matter. But making that distinction at least allows Lucasfilm, when it comes to like filmmaking and storytelling, to actually have a little bit more creative freedom. Like that was the problem with making the expanded universe canon going into the sequel trilogy. Like if they would have kept that canon, then it's like, okay, well now you have to explain the Yuuzhan Vong War or Heir to the Empire, and that's literally all you could do with the time.
Sounds like you're trying to give him a safety net, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, of course, 100%. This is a
no
very
safety net.
franchise.
No safety nets. Do it and do it right. No safety nets.
Commit or not,
or go home. Yeah.
Okay,
I think
fair.
With me, I'm conflicted because I like the idea of non-canon stories because fundamentally you can do more, right? Like none of these stories, I shouldn't say that, but most of them couldn't really fit into the canon. And if they did, it would just feel a little weird. But I would just prefer it to be canon. Like if they did Visions again, right, and like half of the stories were just like little side missions about I don't know, like Qui-Gon or like any of the characters in the timeline, and just expanded on them in like in a little neat way. I would just prefer that. Like I would prefer that so much more than this. But I understand the argument for it being non-canon.
I think my answer.
It's like, how long is the Skywalker timeline? What is it? 50 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Something
We
like
have
that.
thousands of years of history and infinite amount of time after Episode 9 that we can we can make canon stuff. We just
we're trying that
don't mess
longer.
just
We're
don't mess with
throwing
those
in there.
50. Just don't mess with those 50 years anymore. Do everything outside of it.
Republic, they're delicately tying it into the actual Skywalker timeline, and we got the
And it's working
now. And now, yeah, it is, but it takes time to build that. I don't think it actually takes time. I think they're just fucking lazy at Lucasfilm a lot of the time.
Oh, God forbid they have to do work.
But I don't know. People say they want to expand the timeline, right? I feel like asking them to go too far forward. I don't say it's unrealistic, but I feel like right now, the time period after the Rise of Skywalker is the only thing where you have absolutely nothing in the future. So I don't know if you want to handicap them in some way by telling a story after the Rise of Skywalker. But then if you go way past in the past Phantom Menace, then you're like, oh, why don't you just tell KOTOR then? Or why don't you tell the origins of the Jedi? So I feel like there's going to be those complaints either way.
But there's thousands of years. KOTOR happened in a specific set. I mean,
no, I wouldn't complain, but I feel like that's what some people would.
Yeah, like current, like if you go by Legends timeline, it's supposed to be like what 4,000 years or something crazy before.
Oh, geez,
the Phantom Menace, I think.
Yeah, it's like 5,000 years.
Yeah. So let's just assume they keep it that. I think it would be better if it was like 1,000 years before. That would make more sense. Tighten it up a little bit. Well, let's just assume it's still 5,000 years. You know what can happen in 5,000 years? You can have all these other canon stories that does not mess with KOTOR and does not mess with the Skywalker saga.
You're not
all you have to do
like,
is keep certain threads together. That's it.
Imagine how they made in like SWTOR canon, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMORPG game. That would be ridiculous if that was canon, because those characters are so ungodly powerful that when you think, okay, thousands of years later, you get to the Skywalker saga and you see supposedly the greatest Sith of all time, Sidious, and he looks like fucking like a weakling compared to some of these Sith and Jedi from these video games, and they're video games, so they're supposed to be.
What made him the most powerful Sith of all time? Let's think about that. Based on what scale?
I made the game fun.
No, I'm talking about.
No, I know what you mean.
Sidious.
I know what you mean.
I'm talking about
What made
Sidious.
him the most powerful? Probably usurping the Jedi, or the fact that like his apprentices said that he was the most powerful. Plagueis said that
his apprentices that based on how many Sith had they met.
Yeah, that's a good point, but I'm just saying that in general, the cult, like, that's pretty much the point of the Bane's rule too, is that every apprentice becomes stronger than their master, and they eventually got to a point where Sidious had apprentices who could no longer overcome him. Yeah, that's the entire purpose.
Is it?
No.
But are they really more powerful? Here's the thing. What made Sidious considered the most powerful Sith ever known was the fact that we were basing it on Lucas's stories, that there were really not many other Sith. Okay? And then we also got thrown the fact that the reason why he was considered, because it was 2,000 years of culmination of this plan to lead up to him being able to destroy the Jedi Order. It wasn't him being the most powerful. It was the plan, the rule of two culminated with him. That didn't mean he was the most powerful.
No, but what made him the most powerful is the fact, like, first of all, George Lucas himself did say that he would be the most powerful Sith of all time. And when you look at all the Sith, even in the expanded universe, like, it is without a doubt a fact that Emperor Palpatine is the most powerful Sith of all time. Like, historically, like, he's achieved feats that none of them ever have. The closest person is Emperor Vitiate, and a lot of his magical dark side abilities came from magic. Like, they were just sorcery. And Palpatine knew more about the Sith and the dark side than almost any other Force user.
This is when Star Wars only erases Revan because he's OP.
Oh my god. So here's my problem with Revan is people say he's a master of the dark side and the light, and I fundamentally disagree with that notion in general. I don't think you could be a master of both. Like, in order to be a master of one, you have to commit to that and only that. Like, it would be possible to say that, like, Palpatine was a master of the dark side and a master of the light, even though he's never even delved into the light. To commit to the dark side and be a master of it, you have to commit fully. So
I've seen people with multiple PhDs
and plus
learn
Revan,
different schools of learning.
Not the same thing.
Fuck those people. Revan got his ass kicked by Vitiate like 2 times. All right, so you can't tell me that he can get his ass kicked by Vitiate, but is somehow better than Sidious, who's never lost a single fucking fight.
This is when your OT homerism comes through. Star Wars only. Revan would kick Sidious's ass. Revan would kick Palpatine's ass.
The biggest disservice.
Yes, he would.
Palpatine was that the way he died was he was just thrown off a ledge, or died the first time. It doesn't seem like
this dude cheated death. All right, I don't know if anyone else like this.
Okay, don't bring me your sequel nonsense.
No. You're talking about how only is being so OT. You're stuck in that OT. Listen up, Lunga. My boy Palpatine. All right, this guy cheated death. All right,
sure. Star Wars only. Just so you know, the only support you have is him using The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, guess what? This is the best Star Wars movie to ever exist. Fight me.
The sequels only strengthen the case that Palpatine's the strongest Sith ever.
Yeah, where you at? There you are. What you said.
Yeah, the most contentious Star Wars movies ever made. Sure. Yeah, we understand.
Well, what's not contentious is that Sidious is the most powerful Sith ever. I'm not gonna step down from that one.
I prefer that too.
I feel like it'd be pointless if he wasn't almost, since he's being the main villain of the saga. But anyways, when it comes to non-canon, since we are debating that pretty much at this point, Lucasfilm's vice president of story recently said in an interview today about doing more non-canon stories. He says it's something we are interested in. It's the reason the approach to Visions as it was is what we empower specific creators with their process and medium. So much of the stuff you see in Visions, the specificity of anime as a medium justifies a lot of the storytelling. And he goes on to say, so do I think we could do more non-timeline storytelling? I think under the Visions framework, absolutely. There is a certain joy in having celebratory content that is removed from the gravitas of the canon. We'll have to see what the fandom wants. Palpatine, we'll give this to you first. What do you think about that? What do you think about Lucasfilm committing, apparently, more to non-canon stories?
I'll say, because I know we talked about this whole non-canon canon thing with the KOTOR remake, right? And I think my answer stays the exact same from my points that I made back then, which is, if they make these small stories, because Visions essentially, it's just a bunch of small stories, right? If they keep doing those and they're just little fun, little small stories that aren't canon, they do whatever they want, yeah, I'm all for that. But if they make something as big as a KOTOR remake, like, that's a huge deal, especially people like Lunga and stuff. That's huge. Why would you remake that or whatever and make this huge story, but not make it a canon story, making that important to the overall aspect of the Star Wars saga? Because, just naturally, that's a big deal. This is a part of this not the Skywalker saga, sorry, but it's a part of where that Skywalker saga lands. It's in this canon. So if they continue with the way of Visions, where it's these small little stories and they're fun, cool, I hope they continue that. But if they make something like KOTOR remake, which they are making, if they make that not canon, I would be very, very disappointed, because I understand the points of, it gives them more creative freedom, they can do more, blah, blah, blah. But as Logan said, well, just do a little bit more work and you can still tie it together and you can still make this work. There's a lot of things that you can do to still make it work.
That seems pussy to me. It seems scaredy cat. Like,
they
hated us with those movies. Let's not mess with anything now. Let's make everything non-canon.
Right. I mean, you can very easily. I can't say very easily because I've never tried it, but you can take the same KOTOR storyline and make it fit with the current canon. Obviously, you'd have to nerf these ridiculous Force users and stuff. And there's a lot more things that you'd have to do, and there's a lot of connections they can do to the main canon of the Skywalker saga. So if they don't do that, it's gonna be like, what's the point if you already made, what's the point? So that's kind of my answer. Small stories, could do fun stuff, but big stories,
like that.
Those canon.
I completely agree with Papa Memes, because I feel like you can't do anything that's live action that's non-canon. Mm-hmm. I think one of the strengths about Star Wars, right? It's the strength of the MCU as well, is that they have all these stories that build to one thing. It's part of the same continuity. Now with Star Wars, the big things already happen and they're filling the gaps in afterwards. And if they just stray away from that, like, again, stories like Visions, sure, but I feel like if you do more stories like Visions, you can't have it, you can't have a story about Luke and say it's non-canon, because then it's like, why? Mm-hmm. Why not just make it canon? I feel like you could. There's 30 years between episode 6 and 7. I'm sure you could find a way to make a story about Luke being a younger Jedi to fit in the canon. I don't understand a good reason why not to. If you want to tell a story like the twins, where you just have these two twins like going batshit crazy, then sure, make it non-canon. But if KOTOR is not canon, again, I haven't played the game, but from everything I've heard, you can pretty much take the story verbatim and fit it into the canon, and there wouldn't be any problems. Like maybe a few changes, but then changes that wouldn't impact the story as a whole.
Well, like I said,
if KOTOR is not canon, I don't understand why not.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't understand. Like I said, remaking the game for it not to be canon is
just do the same story that already existed. Why would you change the story if you're not going to make it canon? That's my biggest thing. Is again, we don't know yet.
They can make the old story better. I'm okay with them.
Yeah.
It would be very disappointing, like you're saying, if they made the remake and it's not canon. However, I don't think they should stray away from non-canon storytelling in general. I mean, they didn't when it came to the expanded universe, even though George Lucas constantly said, these are not my stories, these do not exist in my universe, and we still got great content. What would you guys think about like Star Wars video games being made that are non-canon? Because that's non-committal. Like Force Unleashed, like if they made a third game, would you not all be happy with that? And even if it's not canon,
that is the most overrated Star Wars game I've ever played.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry.
I did like Force
The
Unleashed.
first one's amazing.
The first one has a decent storyline. The second one is like it's so stupid.
Oh yeah, the second one sucks. Everyone.
But here's the thing. I didn't really care about the storyline, to be honest with you. I mean, I cared, but I didn't play it for the storyline. I played it because it was just a fun game to play.
I think that's the wrong route for people to go. Not you, but like creators. I think, I think the thing that makes Fallen Order so special is because it's just you are living in this timeline. You know, when you're playing a game, you are the character. You're living in this timeline between this huge dark time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and it's something that you yourself get to experience. And for it to just not be canon, like just in my head, you just don't. It's weird because this is all fiction, but you don't feel that natural connection. That's like, oh man, I'm living in this time.
Like when it comes to Fallen Order, you can't fight Vader and beat him and win. You sure as hell can't fight Sidious or do anything. If you have a non-canon Star Wars game, and let's just say it says fuck all and you like in time travel and fight, like there's like limitless possibilities with non-canon stories. So I think it'd be foolish of them to abandon it, especially if they're starting something with Visions. We all like it clearly, even though it's not canon. If it works, why give up on it? Just because it's not canon doesn't mean it's not enjoyable, because it's not committing to the timeline that we know.
I think there's a bigger
you're talking
upside.
about it as a one-off story.
Yeah,
if you're continuing it, it's another story now.
I think there's a bigger upside if it is connected to the canon, because when people say creative freedom, if you want true creative freedom, then create your own universe. Like if you're using the tools in Star Wars, I don't know.
It's not even that hard. Like people think if you put any kind of rules on anything, that you have no creative freedom, and that's not the truth. Okay, all they have to do is give them just a little notepad that has 10 points of don't break these things because they'll fuck with canon, and you could then do anything you want with that story. Yeah. And again, when we keep on talking about don't mess with canon, it's literally what the Skywalker saga. I mean, that's literally all we really have. It's canon at this point, if you think about it.
Sure.
Darth Bane, they canonized that because it was in Clone Wars, and stuff like that. But it's still loosey-goosey on a lot of these things. So it's not like they have this like volumes and volumes of stuff they have to keep track of to stick with canon. It's just just like Feige does. Feige gives his directors. He gives his directors freedom, but he gives them the outline of like, this is what's going to happen next. This is what's here. Just make sure you stay within this.
The galaxy is huge. Like, the trillions of people. And like,
you can go outside the galaxy.
As long as you don't have like any of the characters from the movies, if you don't have it connect on like something that's a galactic scale, like you could have a planetary war somewhere off on a different planet and not have it like break canon. Like just say, like Luke can't go there and die, and no, these people in this war in this corner of the galaxy can't go off and fight the Empire. Like you can
the scuttlebutt of Yoda's planet is that it's literally hidden to stay away from all this galactic conflict, and that's why it's so hidden and no one knows anything about their race. Well, I mean, there's millions of things you could do.
You mentioned, I think it was you that said, someone said going outside of the galaxy. That's something I'd love to see. I'd love to see a world in Star Wars where Star Wars virtually does not exist for this planet. But of course, things like the Force and everything do. And then what if that planet learns about this? It'd be almost as if aliens came down on planet Earth, right? And then it's just an idea that like pops in my mind. Like, what if there is a planet?
Think of it like different cultures on here. Like we had simultaneously on Earth, let's say, right? You had the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But then you had indigenous peoples, empires, Aztecs and Mayans, whatever going on in North America and South America, right? You could have another galaxy or far away that they recognize the Force, right? But they don't know what the Jedi are, or they don't know what this are.
Right.
But they have their own Teutonic Knights or whatever. I mean, they have their own version of Jedi that's different because they're in a different part of the galaxy. Doesn't know anything about this galaxy.
There was this book. It was called The Legends of Luke Skywalker, and basically in the book, it's like these kids gather around, and they tell stories that they've heard about Luke Skywalker. So the book's canon, but like the stories that the kids are telling are just like legends. But like one of those stories, Luke goes to this island, and these people are clearly using the Force, but they call it something else. I have no clue what it was, but they were like in
chakra.
They were in tune with like the ocean and stuff.
Yeah,
and like it's like a whole like piece of world building that's within the Star Wars universe, and it doesn't break any canon. They're just isolated to their own planet. So again,
if I wanted to tomorrow, guys, I could write an entire 100,000 word novel that's set in a different galaxy that holds all the same tenets as Star Wars does, but is a completely different story and completely unrelated, but still stick to what we know what the rules are.
And you know what else? If the story is in the canon, but it just connects to nothing, then you always have the potential of connecting it to the canon if you wanted to later on. If you make it non-canon off the start, you can't change your mind later on. Like if they make a AAA video game with a great story that's like really high budgeted, but it's not canon, and there's just like very few things that are contradictions, then you can't connect it to anything later on. And I'm going.
I mean, let's look
understand it. Sorry, I just don't understand. There's very few reasons as to why to make something non-canon.
Yeah. That's I feel the same way. I mean, we got to think of it in these terms. What the High Republic is doing. Star Wars only. You've read it. This is a couple hundred years, before what we know, and Ryloth is just becoming a part of the Republic. The Outer Rim is still pretty much uncharted territory. There's still lots of planets that are known regular planets during the regular Skywalker saga that during the High Republic are just entering, or people barely know anything about them. And that's the outer rim. That's not even like outside the galaxy or another galaxy. There's so much room to do so much things that it would still be in canon, but it won't have to mess with what, like Goldman was saying, that it doesn't necessarily interfere with what's happened.
There's so much. You can have an entire planet that planet itself, it has its own empire, right? Just for that planet. So I mean, there's so much you can do. That's like, look, it's a freaking huge galaxy. So yeah, I think
and just think about like Earth. Like, planet Earth has 7 billion people about, and how many different cultures there are. There's dozens, hundreds of different like cultures, subcultures, large cultures, governments, religions. That's just on one planet. In Star Wars, you have thousands of planets. So that, do the math, that's millions of different like cultures you could potentially create. And some of them could be connected to the Force, and they just don't know it. Some can't.
And they did it once with Mandalore. They did it already with Mandalore. Mandalore stayed out of that whole thing for the longest time and maintain their own empire.
The only argument that I could hear for making non-canon stories is if they wanted to make more books in the EU, because there's a big fan base for that. And even then, that's in its own canon. It's not the canon; it's a canon. So, I don't know.
Well, so what would be the difference of like expanded universe canon and non-canon stuff? Because neither of them are technically canon. I feel like the benefit of having non-canon stories, even if they're one-offs, like Longo was saying, they're non-committal. You don't if they remake the KOTOR game and it's canon and it's absolute ass. Wouldn't you guys rather be non-canon at that point? Like if it really breaks Star Wars, you don't want to put ourselves in that situation.
No, because that takes the pressure off of them of making something good.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, the Visions was good, and I don't feel like they had pressure on making it into the canon for being good.
Sure,
it was great for not
because
being
those Japanese studios don't give a fuck. They're gonna do whatever they want to do.
That's what I'm saying. The beauty of non-canon is you don't have to give a fuck about the rules of Star Wars. Anything that involves the Force, the Jedi, the Sith, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And
Visions is kind of unique, though. It's unique because you have these studios that actively have been making things and making anime and telling stories for a long time, and they want to let's take your flavor and apply it to Star Wars and see what you can come up with. So Visions is very unique in this situation. I mean, the way you sound like let's do this like across the board, it's like just giving all these different creators just a blank slate and say, here, go ahead and make something. If we like it, we'll say it's canon. If it's not, it stays non-canon. That's it. It seems very wishy-washy to me. And if people really love Star Wars so that they I'm not saying loving Star Wars is a requirement to write something for Star Wars, but it's a pretty good step to writing a good story. Because I tell you what, I'm an author. I'm not going to write a romance novel because I don't give a shit about romance novels. And I know if I wrote one, it wouldn't be that great because I don't care about it as much. You know what I mean? So, but if you care about Star Wars and you legitimately want to do a good Star Wars story, don't you want it to be that it fits with the universe, that it fits with what's been told before? If you don't, and there's no onus to that, then what are you really making at this point? You're making something that just has a Star Wars label on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. I just, in general, I feel like since canon and non-canon doesn't really matter in the grand scope of things, I'm completely fine with them making non-canon stories going forward and committing to them. If they continue to do EU books, I would probably be invested in them. There's some EU stories that weren't finished. I mean, even if they decided to make a video game after Republic Commando to finish out that story that we never got, call it non-canon, I'm going to be there opening day and I'm going to play it, and hopefully I'll have a good time. And if it's canon or not, I'm not going to give it any shit for it. But I understand feeling like they should commit or not to commit in certain stories on making it canon and delivering on that quality. But in the grand scheme of things, at least after Visions, maybe this is recency bias on my hands. I feel like after Visions, I want more non-canon stories because at least with Visions, this has been surprisingly well compared to a lot of the other stuff like Bad Batch or Resistance or Rebels. Those stories committing to canon stuff don't really hit the mark a lot.
Yeah, but I think that's where the logical fallacy comes in, because I think you're linking the fact that Visions is good because it's non-canon, and I don't think that I think that's just happenstance. I don't think it's good because it's non-canon. I think it's good and it just happens to be non-canon. I don't think that's the reason. And it almost, you said maybe it's recency bias. I'm wondering if maybe you feel that way because you think, oh, this is good because they didn't have those restrictions, and I don't think that's what it is, because they just did what anime studios always do. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then let me say something. When it comes to like non-canon stories, I feel like there needs to be like a reason to justify why it's non-canon. Like with Visions, I guess the justification was they just wanted Japanese anime studios to let them reign free and do whatever, just make it really anime to introduce maybe anime fans into Star Wars, right? I think like a story like they did a Star Wars What If, that obviously wouldn't be canon. But like the justification is that, oh, we can tell interesting stories, just like what if this happened? Like what if like Star Wars fans love speculating what if this happened, what if this happened. So that's like the draw to it. If they made EU stories, the justification is that there's a big fan base for the EU, so let's continue that. Like what story could you tell that's not like a what if or not Legends that you would want to not be canon, but like it has to be non-canon because there's no way it could possibly fit into the canon? Like what's an example of a story like that?
Immediately off the top of my head, I'd probably pick something like The Force Unleashed. It's just in canon, it's impossible to fit in.
That's a continuation of the EU.
Again, that's in the middle. Not even just continuation of EU. That's in the middle of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the middle of the Skywalker saga. It involves the main antagonist of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah,
that's why that one's hard.
Yeah,
but that's 50 years of history, man. We have so much, not only time,
67.
but space to fill stories with whatever the hell you want that won't fuck canon.
I think like Star Wars only brought up like the Imperial Commando, I guess it would be called, right? I love Republic Commando, I love the characters. But I think it goes back to my KOTOR. Why wouldn't they make that canon? Why wouldn't they say, hey, we're gonna make these stories that fans love? Yeah, we're gonna bring them back into canon. I know the Commandos and stuff, they are in canon and stuff, but I meant like this story wise, why not make a new story and they're like, oh, this is gonna be canon? Because it's not like they're restricted. I don't think personally they like a story like that would be restricted too much because there's so many different opportunities you can do within that story. Yeah.
Question. Now let's think about this. So pick a book series that was Legends. I guess we could say Zahn. New Jedi Order. Okay, New Jedi Order. Let's go with that one. Okay, New Jedi Order. Okay, so Mara Jade. That's like one of the most popular characters after Thrawn's trilogy. Going to New Jedi Order, marries Luke Skywalker. Mara Jade, who Lucas has pretty much said flat out he hates Mara Jade. I don't know why this man has this irrational hate for Mara Jade. She's a great character, but Mara Jade. Now, I know technically because of the licensing, that is a Star Wars property, correct? Wouldn't Mara J be considered a Star Wars property?
Right.
Yeah.
But doesn't the author hold some rights to it? Isn't there some residuals
I'm not a
that come
lawyer.
towards the author if those characters are
Legally
used? Or
speaking.
Apparently, there's like a big thing right now that a lot of EU authors aren't getting paid for their books. So I don't know.
well, but their books are just reprintings; they're not continuations.
So,
You know what I mean?
But you like if they
Let's say they
continued.
continued.
They told a story with Mara Jade. Are you saying that
Right.
Zahn deserves residuals?
I'm saying I think the reason why Disney said no, this is all Legends, is no longer canon, because they wanted to go unencumbered with whatever stories to do without having to worry about any legal entanglements or paying someone royalties or worrying about this one's created by this person, this was created by that person. I think it was easier for them just to cut it all off and just say we're going to make our own. And if they make something inspired by it, legally they have all rights to that. And there's nothing that anyone can
Well,
say.
then what about Thrawn? Because Timothy Zahn created Thrawn, and they clearly are using Thrawn in canon now.
Yeah, but I think Zahn had a different relationship with Disney than the rest of the authors.
Well, yeah,
There
most
seem
likely.
not Disney,
they
I mean
clearly brought him
Lucasfilm.
in.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of the authors from the old books, from the old canon, new canon, there's not much. Like in the beginning, there was like James Luceno wrote some great EU books, and he's written the last canon book he wrote was 5 years ago. So
Wasn't it the
besides,
Tarkin book?
yeah, well, Tarkin was his first one, and he wrote a Rogue One book, like the Catalyst was the prequel.
Oh God.
And then like I think John Jackson Miller, I think he wrote the first canon book, and since then he hasn't done anything. So
Yeah.
besides Zahn, I don't know if there's any other. I'm actually curious, but
And the funny thing is, all these things were called canon. They were just different labels. G canon, C canon.
Yeah.
But they're all canon.
I don't give a fuck. None of them are canon. All right. If it ain't George Lucas's canon, it ain't canon to me. All right.
Well, I love when people make those arguments about the EU because it's like they keep pointing out to like I keep forgetting her name, but the woman who was the head of the publication department for Lucasfilm for all those years,
Yeah.
during the EU. She kept insisting, talking about how this is canon. George has signed off on it. This is part of the lore. This is this, this is that. And George is like, yeah, sure, whatever. We're getting paid. And it's because she had to do that because her job was to make sure that department was successful. And the way that department is successful is saying, this has the blessing of George Lucas. It's all canon, because they wanted Star Wars fans to buy it. If they say, yeah, George doesn't really care about this. We're just writing some stories. It's kind of like Star Wars. Do you guys want to buy it? That's not going to work. That's why. So they had to say it that way. That's why they came up with these faux titles of G canon, C canon, just to let George be happy of saying, yeah, it's not my stuff. But at the same time, say it's Star Wars.
Well, I think it's funny that you mentioned them not committing to like a lot of those canon expanded universe characters in canon is because of potentially not wanting to do the residuals for the creators of those characters and stories.
Mm-hmm.
I remember back when he was alive, rest in peace, the late great J.W. Rinsler. He got in trouble for this, but he did say that his biggest problem with Disney's acquisition over Lucasfilm is the way they were handling licensing. He said that, I think it was I can't remember when he left the company. I think it was before The Force Awakens, probably like 2014, 2015. They wouldn't let him do a book on it. And he talked about in his blog, and he said something along the lines of like, the biggest thing I wish I could change is the licensing. Like, it's just abysmal. He did not like the way that they were dealing with licensing. I don't know if it was for this specific reason or what, but it does seem like that era of Star Wars books and Star Wars creativity and storytelling has kind of ended because of something to do with licensing and these new authors and just going forward for Lucasfilm Publishing or whatever they're doing over there. And don't know what he was talking about, but it would be kind of curious to find out what that was, because that seemed to be a big make it or break it for him. And I know he said it's one of the reasons he left the company is he was just kind of done with that kind of control that Disney had.
Disney wouldn't let him make
That's not surprising.
making of the Force Awakens book.
Yes, yeah, he was going to make it, and then the higher ups at Lucasfilm and Disney were saying that they didn't want that many eyes on the production, because the way Rinsler described it is he's like, most movies, they have trouble in production, so it's kind of a given that there's going to be issues, and people are just going to take that at face value. He said, but Lucasfilm and Disney's mentality on it was, so that since this is Star Wars, they're going to see production issues, and if we cover those production issues in these books, people will see that as a weakness. And in hindsight, they were right, were they not? I mean, a lot of people look at the production issues on The Force Awakens, Solo, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi didn't have any, but The Rise of Skywalker did. We all look at those as like weaknesses of like, oh, look how bad they fucked up. So maybe they had a point in not allowing him to make those books, but I also think that lack of insight was kind of taken down the sequels for a notch because I don't like the prequels. I love watching the behind the scenes making of those movies because I love seeing the mistakes that Lucas makes. Like I love how he like sees fucking Jake Lloyd acting with Natalie Portman. He's like, God, he's just beautiful, and seeing this man commit to this fucking kid who's not gonna act, you know.
I think once the sequels become, if they become more favorably in the fandom like the prequels are today, then they'll release more behind the scenes stuff. Because I remember they would look at like the documentary The Phantom Menace, and there'd be clips of like George Lucas writing on whiteboards and everyone else is so nervous around him and just like, oh, George Lucas had to control, and it's like they spun it in a negative way. But now we look at it and it's just like super fascinating. So I think if they released a lot of behind the scenes stuff right now for the sequels, then people would be like, oh yeah, The Rise of Skywalker went wrong, Last Jedi went wrong, this and that. But like 10 years from now, if the Mandalorian and the Mandoverse really connects to the sequels and people love them now, they acknowledge it's still flawed, and they release behind the scenes stuff of like The Rise of Skywalker, whatever, I think it'd be more favorable.
Yeah, and I think Disney definitely has reasonings for that, because how many times have you seen I may have gone too far in a few places? And most of the time you hear that, jokes now, but it's used so many times to say, hey, the prequels suck. Look at George. Even George was like, oh, crap. You know, it's bold in terms of it jerks you around, but may have gone too far in a few places. You know, and it's like that is not good. Nowadays, like as someone who grew up in the prequels, I'm like, I don't get this freaking funny meme. But the people that hate the prequels are like, no, look, even George himself is like, crap, we screwed up. When freaking J.J. Abrams is like, yeah, I really wish we had a more cohesive plan from the start. Look how much that blew up. And everyone's like, yeah, no, duh. But it's like, just that statement alone. It's
Don't listen to JJ that much, though. Because here's the thing. You know the reason why there wasn't, part of the reason there wasn't cohesiveness is his fault. Because he says, I'm only doing one. I start things. I don't finish them. That's why it happened. Well, as far as I remember, I believe they tried to bring him in to do all three, and he didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did make the overall draft, though, so they changed that.
It's 100% Kathleen Kennedy's fault. 100%.
No. 100? No.
That's it.
He said Kathleen Kennedy wanted to bring him in to do all three, and he said, "No, I just want to do the first one."
I don't.
So they could have still like kept. They could, if Kathleen Kennedy, what she should have done. I hate getting into these sequel debates, but if she really wanted a connected story or a planned story. That and JJ wants to do one film. She's like, okay, JJ, you do this. Ryan Johnson, you do this, and Colin Trevorrow, you do this. But no, I'm not going to stop. No. But she didn't.
Ryan Johnson threw out the treatment that JJ left behind. So let's not even go there.
Kathleen Kennedy let him do that.
Yeah,
should she have put her foot down and say, wait, this is what JJ did. Let's go stick with this. Sure.
That's her fault.
Yes, it is her fault. But
it may be her fault, but like it wasn't a lack of judgment. I mean, her like honestly, her coming in after The Force Awakens, which had Bob Iger has never been more involved with the Star Wars, or not a Star Wars movie, with a movie. He's never been more involved with a movie in his life than he has with The Force Awakens, which, in my opinion, is a red flag from the start. But when it came to The Last Jedi, she literally told Ryan, "We don't know what's happening in 9. You do whatever the fuck you want, bro." Yeah. And if that was a good decision or not, it's still Ryan who derailed it for a lot of people. And if you like the story, it is a fine story, but for continuing the narrative of the sequels, it just kind of felt eh. So I don't think it's 100% Kathleen Kennedy's fault. I think it's Disney in general.
A lot of people dropped the ball.
Well, it's not J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson's fault.
If J.J. Abrams loved this stuff as much as he says he does, and he signed on for this most anticipated movie of the century, okay, the return of fucking Star Wars, bro. And this man, I just want to do the first one. You guys figure out the rest, dude. Why'd you even sign up then, dude? That was nonsense. And then he comes back for the third one and takes a dying dump over the whole thing. That was just
But he's a creator. He's a creator. He makes different things.
And he made a bad choice. Either do it all, or go home.
I understand that, but he made the treatments. He did make an overall outline. So
without any commitment that they were going to follow it.
But is that fair to say when he made those in hopes that they committed to those? It's hard to compare it to the OT because George was still there throughout continuously, but it was still 3 different people, and how many different ideas got thrown in when George, I know Goldman wants to pop in here. So.
If I was JJ Abrams, okay, and I've decided, I only want to do the first movie. This is all I'm committing to, but if I'm tying my name, JJ Abrams, to this. Not only to this, but to one of the largest, most known, most loved franchises on the planet. And I want this to be good, and I don't want my name attached to something that's going to piss people off. I will do this movie. Here's the treatment. Kathleen Kennedy, make sure whoever follows me up follows this treatment, or I will not do this first movie. He did not do that. He just did it and then walked away.
Okay.
Yes, he left his treatment, but without any kind of confirmation that they were going to use it, without any kind of confirmation that there was a whiteboard or any kind of storyboard or any plan going forward.
Okay,
he did not do any of that.
But Lunga, in Disney's defense, Disney's not known for being honest in those kind of situations. Kathleen Kennedy or Bob Iger could have looked at JJ and been like, yeah, this is great, or we're going to continue the story. But when it came to George Lucas and him saying, I'm not going to sell you the rights to this franchise unless you follow my story treatments, they said, yeah. They put it in the outline. They put it in the draft. They put it in all of that. And then whenever Lucas signed the contract, he thought that they were taking his story treatments and going to use it for 7, 8, and 9. They didn't fucking do that. So I'm not going to put this all... That's
not playing with words. They said they would consider it. They didn't say they were going to use it. Let's not mince words.
No, I'm not playing with words, though, because George has talked about this in interviews with Brian J. Jones. They talk about how when George was making this, Bob Iger would come to him and say, like, hey, I want to see the story treatments. And he'd be like, no, if you want my story treatments, if you want 7, 8, and 9, you want Star Wars, you have to get these story treatments, and you have to guarantee me that you are going to use my story treatments.
Right. And he guaranteed it to him in voice and a handshake, not on paper.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm saying where I feel like it's a mistake to have the blame on JJ for writing these outlines and then Lucasfilm not committing to it. It's not JJ's fault they didn't commit to it.
Yes, exactly.
If he got word of mouth from Kathleen Kennedy and her saying, yeah, we're going to do it, plans change, stories change. I feel like in general, it is a mixed bag of every single person involved with the sequels.
Yes.
Whether it's
I'm not blaming JJ by himself.
JJ, Ryan, I feel like all of these people, every single one of them refused to take on the responsibility for the sequels. And they all just were kind of like, well, we're going to get through this together. But no one wanted to step up to the plate and say, here's how it's going to be done. Here's the story that people want to see. And here's what we're going to do. There was never a head guy. And it sure as fuck was not Kathleen Kennedy.
I know. But the issue, like, if JJ didn't come back for Rise, I would not have anything to say. The fact that he came back for Rise and then tried to make both movies that should have been made jammed into one with the second movie already there, dude. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I kind of get that.
That's fair. That's fair. But like, I don't know, to blame J.J. Abrams. When J.J. Abrams went into The Force Awakens, he must have known that whatever his treatments were that he wrote were not 100% set in stone. So he knew that, and he went to Disney's like, okay, I'm making one movie, and then you guys do the rest. That is still Disney's fault for hiring someone who said they would only do one movie. If Disney really wanted someone to do all three, they didn't have to hire J.J. Abrams in the first place.
No, sure, of course. I'm not absolving Disney of anything. No, Disney made many mistakes were made. I'm not saying Disney is absolved of anything. Of course, Kathleen Kennedy, the buck stops with her. Yeah, 100%. She's the one who hired Rian Johnson and didn't give him any kind of reins. Just let him do whatever the hell he wanted to. And yeah, of course. What I'm saying is from the perspective of J.J. Abrams, who came back to do a third movie, okay, that he wasn't supposed to do. All I'm saying is, if you took this upon yourself because you were the first person to make a Star Wars since Revenge of the Sith, okay? You are the head. You are the lead at this point. I don't care if Kathleen Kennedy is president of Lucasfilm. I don't care Bob Iger. You are this. If your name is being attached to this, there's a legacy thing here. Don't tell me JJ doesn't like legacy building because he sure as fuck does, okay? If you're trying to do legacy building and you're doing this and you made this treatment and you do not have the wherewithal to make sure it's followed or either make sure it's followed or stay there to complete it. To me, that tells me that he also had a huge part in the fuck up of this. He did.
I don't know. If I'm being hired on for one movie, I'm completely fine with being like, all right, guys, like, how do you want the story to go? They all kind of agree on like where we're going to take this.
He wasn't hired on for one movie. He came in and said he was only going to do one movie.
Yeah, but
that was his choice.
They planned on like having Rian Johnson do it, direct the sequel many years before they even released The Force Awakens. So I don't feel like he signed on for one movie and was like, I'm going to write the other three. He wrote the outlines for him for sure, and I mean, fucking Lucasfilm took them. I guess they just never gave them to Rian Johnson or whatever happened.
They lost
with
him.
That.
Well, actually, we don't have him anymore.
There's definitely like a loss in translation and bad communication going on over there at Lucasfilm with these stories. But to place it all on JJ, I'm fine with his
I'm
mentality.
not
of,
placing
"You
it all.
brought me in
Not
for-"
placing it all.
But you're saying that he's in the fault for not being guaranteed to have his drafts followed through. That wasn't his responsibility. When he came in, it was like, hey, you're going to do The Force Awakens. You're going to do the first episode of this trilogy, and we have 2 other guys doing the other things. And for his mindset, it must have been, great, that's a lot of pressure off me. I'm going to make this really good, really nostalgic, give you some member berries. You're going to enjoy what we used to love and add some new flavors to it. And then these other 2 assholes are going to finish off the story, and it's not... no pressure on me anymore. Say what you will, but out of all the sequel movies, I feel like most people left The Force Awakens feeling the most ecstatic about the franchise.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about The Force Awakens. I'm talking about what happened afterwards. The man came back to do the 3rd movie. God, let's not forget he came back to do the 3rd damn movie.
That was
and why is it his job to come back? Why is it his job to come back?
That'll give him a lot of money.
Because he made this bed, now he's gonna bang whatever crawls in.
Oh, he made this bed that he decided to crawl out of and give it to somebody else, and then decided to take it back later.
What was it his decision? I
After they
understand the
shit
point
on
of,
the
like,
bed.
why would he join if it wasn't, but, like, I
It was a
understand
decision.
what...
He wasn't an indentured servant. He had to sign the contract to come back.
No, I know, but I understand what Star Wars Only is saying. It's, I mean, he's a huge Star Wars fan. I'd be ecstatic if even they're like, hey, you can make 1 movie. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get both sides of the argument. All I want to say is, at the end of the day, it's like, look, I was really happy with the way they all 3 turned out. And so I understand there's a lot of behind-the-scenes productions, but to me, I'm like, okay, I'm still happy with the 3. So I love talking about the behind-the-scenes, but it's not going to change my opinion in the final product, because the final product is what we see on screen, not what happened behind the scenes. So that's just kind of how I want to say that.
I don't know how I can't even remember how we got started on this.
I know, isn't this about visions? We brought up canon. Good job,
we were
guys.
doing non-canon stuff, and then we talked about how fucking awful.
Well, some dude
JJ
keeps
is.
talking about how
Abrams had been offered the chance to direct The Last Jedi, but he turned it down.
Yeah, you know why? I feel like a big...
All right, you win.
I think...
I have no room. See ya.
I think
I'm just reading the article right here on Screen Rant.
Say your sources.
I think J.J. Abrams would have wanted to do all of them, but he didn't want to commit 6 in the time frame that wanted. Remember, Lucasfilm wanted a movie out every 2 years. That means J.J. Abrams really would have committed himself to 6 years of nonstop work. I think he's like, no, I can't do that, and that's why I'm willing to do The Force Awakens. So when they offered him Episode 9, he's probably like, okay, good, I can finally... I got the break I needed. I took 2 years off, more like a year and a half. So I have the energy now to do the 3rd movie. That's probably why.
That's a very fair point too. I mean, that's a lot of making 3 movies within like 6 years. That's a lot.
I could be dangerously wrong about this, but I recall someone saying that Rian Johnson would have done Episode 9 if he had more time between Episode 8 and 9 to actually make the movie.
Yeah, Kathleen
they all say a
did
bunch of
deny that
nonsense.
At one point.
Can I quote the interview with J.J. Abrams with the New York Times where he talks about this?
Yeah.
Sure. In a piece of the New York Times, it was revealed Kennedy approached Abrams to see if he'd be interested in helming Star Wars 8 and 9. The timing of that question could not have been worse, as Abrams was in the midst of handling numerous pre-production responsibility on The Force Awakens, including casting and screenwriting. Looking back at it, Abrams told the Times, "I was like, are you crazy?"
So, and whose fault was that? And whose fault was that?
Oh, no.
Kathleen
The
Kennedy's
timeline,
fault.
we have said over and over again, the timeline,
yes,
the timeline, the very condensed timeline to make these movies is definitely Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Well, not even Kennedy's fault. Iger's fault, right?
Yeah,
'Cause she's the one who
tried to get it spaced out, and I know Ryan did too. Ryan tried to get more time with his script because there was a few things he
He
wanted
did.
to
He
do
delayed
better.
the movie by 6 fucking months.
Right. But this is also the same guy. JJ was
that wasn't
hesitant to even do Force Awakens. You know, and it's like, listen, go in all in or all out. That I'm sorry. I stick with this. If they had the plan that, listen, we're gonna have because Feige has this plan, right? He doesn't have one director to do the whole thing. He has different directors. But Feige has a plan, right? So he can do that. He can have different directors. If there's no plan, and you see this, and you're coming into this, JJ, and you know how important Star Wars is as a franchise, you're going to be hesitant, me and Ma, and then say, oh, I'm just going to do the first one, and there's no plan, and this and that, and then they ask you to do the other one, and you don't want... Listen, J.J. Abrams has done this a lot with a lot of stuff. He comes in, he starts shit, and then he leaves it to let other people finish it, and a lot of times it doesn't end up well. I like J.J. Abrams overall. Don't get me wrong, I do. I was kind of happy that he signed with Warner Brothers. He's going to be doing Green Lantern stuff on HBO Max. I'm looking forward to see this.
Superman too,
I
right?
like one of the Superman, because there's two Superman projects
I don't keep up with that, but I heard Superman.
I like his Cloverfield universe. I think that's like spectacular.
I love the Cloververse.
Yeah, Cloverfield's great, but he also fucks that up by adding it to like a random movie about spaceships. He's like, you know what? Let's add a monster at the end of this, and then say it's Clover, and then do the same thing with the fucking what's that one with the big guy? 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like, that wasn't about the
That was
universe.
a great movie.
It was a great movie, but it's not about fucking Cloverfield monsters. It just
again, there's an ARG that's surrounding all of this, and there's a lot of stuff. If you don't follow it, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that movie and all the other movies and the ARGs associated with it. Yeah, it's huge. It's a big sprawling thing, and it's when you look at everything, it makes sense.
Nah, I think they've fucking added shit and then pasted over. Like, there's clearly a lot of Easter eggs, at least with that last one that came out, the spaceship one. That like the paradox, that Cloverfield paradox. They literally added like soda cans that like were Easter eggs for J.J. Abrams to make the universe connected. But a lot of that stuff was added to make it seem like it was in the Cloverfield universe. J.J. Abrams is a good. Oh, he's not like George Lucas in this sense, but he is a good story guy of like, let's get the momentum going. But yeah, he can't finish it very well. So I'm okay with him not committing to all 3 episodes of the sequel.
Then he should have hired him on to be the showrunner. They should have brought him in as an executive producer role, whatever, be the showrunner and have the directors under him.
All right, look, you know what? How about this? We'll make you Disney board guy. Take it back to 2013, and you tell me who you'd pick for director. That's not J.J. Abrams back then, to give us some member berries, things that we kind of remember. Do a little bit with a twist, add some new flavor, some new love. Who would you have picked other than J.J. Abrams back in 2013?
I'm gonna mess with a lot of people now. Zack Snyder.
Triggered. Go fuck yourself.
I should have seen it coming. I saw that look in your eye. I should have seen it coming. Batman shoot a freaking gun. Break. You guys thought they ruined Luke Skywalker.
Right. Next thing you know, we're gonna have Jedi's using laser blasters. What the hell?
So uncivilized.
All right, we'll end this fucking awful debate on that note.
Gosh, this got so sidetracked.
It was fun.
It was fun. I love it. I just sit back and like, you guys talk.
Final statements, I guess, since we're not going to pick J.J. Abrams as a director. Palpatine Goldman, give me who you would pick back in 2013 to helm the sequel trilogy. And you can't say Ryan Johnson either.
Damn it, fucker! I beat you to it. Peter Jackson.
I like Peter Jackson. I like Christopher Nolan, but I don't know how
not Nolan.
I don't know how well they will work in Star Wars.
He's an auteur. He's another fucking Ryan Johnson.
George Lucas, bring that man back.
Another cheap out. All right, you know what? I'm gonna
Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a director then. Yeah, that would have made sense.
I wasn't gonna pick him, but you know what? Now I would. My original response, which I will admit is revised to Jon Favreau now. My original pick was gonna be James Cameron. Imagine if they brought him in for the sequels.
I think I would like that.
That could have worked.
I think
that could have worked.
Could have worked. I think that would have worked. I think he would have been like, you know what, I got this. You know, James Cameron. That's a man who knows how to make movies and a good story. And he could have set aside his 5 Avatar sequels to make the Star Wars sequels.
4 Avatar sequels.
Oh, there's 4? I thought there was going to be like 6 or 7 in total. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to watch.
Imagine if the sequels were as spaced out as the Avatar. How insane would that be? That'd be interesting.
Hey, hypothetical. What if the Rise of Skywalker was delayed just by 3 more months? Imagine it going in.
We'd see more planets in the intro and then more planets at the end.
I have no idea what they would have done. I mean, it going into COVID, like a Star Wars movie not being
able to be
released.
You're saying that way.
Yeah.
You think they could? You think they could have brought Spielberg out of retirement?
They would have. They wouldn't have released Rise.
I mean, isn't he like kind of semi-retired? He just like something.
Kind of does touch and go stuff. I think Spielberg would only have done it if George was involved story-wise. I really think he would have gone for that. The only reason Spielberg wasn't able to do, I think, either the prequels or maybe it was 1983, Return of the Jedi. He wasn't able to do that because of the Writer Guild thing. And then came prequel time. He was like, well, George, this is kind of a lot of responsibility and, this is your movie. You go fuck this up. And he did. So... James Cameron's
very cool.
Yeah, you're very welcome. No, Spielberg is not my choice. James Cameron is. That's the guy who could have done the sequels right.
J.J. Abrams is mine because screw you all.
Fine. He did.
Again,
he did screw us
I
all.
like The Force Awakens, and I'm not saying J.J. Abrams would have been a problem. Just he should have all 3. That's all.
We're gonna keep this going on. We gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Thank you
go.
all for,
Let's go. We're done.
tuning in. This was a very good and productive Chatooine. Until next time, make sure you click the like button, subscribe to everyone's channel. Everyone's channel is in the description box below. And if you want to save 15% on some Star Wars books, you can use the code in the description as well. See you all next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Star Wars only. We'll see you next time, guys.
Wow.